Hey everyone, it's Dave from Dave's Ohio Barbecue. Have you ever dumped pellets into your pellet smoker and then forgotten like the next week what kind of pellets were in there? Or do you have 3 buckets in your garage and they all look the same and you don't know which one's hickory, which one's oak, which one's maple? Today I'm going to show you how I solved this problem. Stick around. Now I know I'm doing this process to make magnets, basically to stick on my smoker, but you can use this set of steps that I'm showing you for any reason why you would want to paint a tile. To make a coaster, if you want to add a special tile into a wall or something to commemorate something. Even works with glass. So if you want to paint a wine glass, just follow the steps I'm going to show you and it will work great. If you're doing a wine glass though, do not put clear coat on it. Just bake it in the oven, let it cool, and that should be good. As you may know, the name of my YouTube channel is Dave's Ohio Barbecue and More. This is going to fit into that and more category. This is kind of Dave getting a little arts and craftsy on you. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to make a series of magnets and I'm going to make a series of markers. They're all going to kind of be identical so that I can put them inside of my buckets of pellets so I know what kind of pellets they are. And I can also use them on my smoker to know what kind of pellets are currently in the hopper. This probably is not a very big problem with most people, but I saw something on Etsy, I'll put a link to it down below, of a guy who sells these magnets so that you can identify all the different types of pellets you use. And I thought, that's a pretty neat idea. I'm going to try to make those myself. So to start out, what I did was I went to Lowe's, and for about $2, $2.50, I bought this 1 foot by 1 foot sheet of mosaic tiles. They're 2-inch by 2-inch each one of the tiles here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them all apart so they're individual. I don't really need them in the big sheet. I want to make little 2-inch magnets and markers out of these. Now, one of the problems with this kind of tile is they're held together by some sort of like rubber epoxy on the back. I'm going to try to scrape off as much of this as I can. But if you can find individual, just like little tiles, that probably would be better, because you really don't want these, little epoxy things on here, because eventually this is going to end up in your oven. Then I've got some of this green painter's tape, and I kind of cut a couple sections off and I cut them in half, because I only need about a 1/2 inch strip going down the middle, maybe 3/4 of an inch strip going down the middle of each of these tiles. I take the tape and I tape them right down the middle. So now you see I've actually got 19 tiles here. I have 9 different types of pellets that I use on a regular basis. Maybe not a regular basis. Some of them I use once a year at most. I also have one type of pellet that I buy at Lowe's all the time. You've seen me use it before. It's the competition blend. It comes in a huge 40-pound bag, so it doesn't really fit in one bucket. So I usually put it in 2 buckets. So I'm making an extra marker for competition blend that I'm going to chuck in there so I can keep track of both those buckets. So I came up with this system here of how I'm going to color code my magnets. Doesn't really matter if they're color coded. You could just write on them if you want with marker and you'd be fine. But I want to color code mine. I want to make them look a little bit fancier. So what I did was I looked around at the Pit Boss pellets that I buy sometimes. Sometimes I buy Traeger pellets. I looked at what color their bags were and I just kind of came up with a color scheme myself. No big deal. You can pick any color you want. So now on the top and the bottom of each of these tiles, I'm going to mix up the paint and I'm going to paint a stripe on the top and bottom. Now, what kind of paint should you use? Look for this type of enamel paint that has the little picture of a wine glass on top. This is meant to be painted on glassware, and you can bake it in the oven and it cures, so that it's kind of like dishwasher safe, although I probably wouldn't put it in the dishwasher. But it gets on there really, really well. They sell it at Joann's or Hobby Lobby. It's all over the place. It's not very hard to find. So buy the colors that you need. I'm going to mix them up based on my chart here, and I'm going to paint. And some of the colors, like the yellows and the oranges, need a couple of coats, at least like 3 or 4. All the other colors, I'm just going to do 2 coats, and it should be fine. Now, you should let this paint dry for a while. Overnight would be best. Once it's dried overnight, I took my X-Acto knife here, and I just kind of scored along the edge of the tape. I'm really not too worried about it peeling up the paint. I'm not looking for perfection here. But if you score down the edge of the tape, it will kind of make the tape tear off a little bit cleaner. So I did that on all of them. You can see a couple of them, little pieces here and there kind of popped up. Again, I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so now that I've got my 19 tiles here with all their paint on them, I need to write down the middle like what kind of wood it is, what kind of pellet it is. For that, I'm just using a oil-based Sharpie marker. You can get these again at any sort of craft store. You probably can get them at Target if you look. It's just oil-based paint that comes out of a pen. You kind of depress the tip a whole bunch until the ink starts flowing, and then you're ready to go. And then I'm just going to write the name of the pellets all in the middle here so that I know which is which. So once that paint pen has had a little while to dry, you need to kind of cure this in an oven. Any oven will work. Now, if you have the kind that I bought, the kind of tile that I bought with that epoxy on the back, you may not want to put it in your kitchen oven because that epoxy getting up to temperature kind of smells, and I don't know if you want that in your house. So what I have is I've got this like turkey oven that I keep in the basement. I use it, you know, basically at Christmas time to cook ham, and that's about it. I'm going to take that out into the garage. I'm going to put some foil down just to make sure there's, you know, nothing that drips off from those epoxy nubs there. And then I also have these shish kebab skewers. I'm just putting them underneath it just so I get a nice even heat all the way around the tile. I'm going to turn this oven up to 350 degrees. Put them in cold. Don't put them in warm. Put the tile into the oven cold. Then turn it on and let it come up to temperature. Once it gets to temperature, you're going to cook these things. You're going to cure these things for about 30 minutes. Okay? When 30 minutes is up, turn it off and just let them sit there. Don't crack it open. Don't do anything. Let them naturally come back down to like room temperature. I'd give them at least an hour and a half, 2 hours to get down until they're cool enough to handle. What I'm going to do as added insurance is I've got some spray clear acrylic lacquer here, varnish, whatever it's called. I'm going to hit the front of these all with some of this spray just to kind of give it that extra coating. So now half of these are going to be magnets that stick on the side of my pellet smoker. The other half are just going to be markers that I throw into the buckets of pellets. So I need to stick down magnets that I have to the back of half of these tiles. I tried a couple different glues I had on hand. I have the white Gorilla Glue and I also have some of that brown stuff. They both seem to work equally as well, so I'm just going to use the white stuff. I like the way it works. And as much as I'm putting down here, you really don't. You just need a dab and then stick the magnets on. These magnets I've had laying around in my garage for years. Someone gave me a box of these magnets. So this roll you see right here, I had at one point about 150 of these rolls. I've given them to people. I've given them to friends I know that wanted to make things. But I still have a ton of them laying around. So I'm just going to glue one of each of these magnets on the back of half of these. Once they cure, I'm going to give it overnight for the glue to set up. I just stick them on the side of my smoker. And now let's say I fill my hopper up with, apple wood. I remove the apple magnet from the side and I stick it to the top of the lid. That way I know that there's apple wood in there. And until I put something else in there, that magnet will stay up there. Kind of easy to understand. I hope you get it. And now, as for the other ones, what I'm going to do is as I fill up a bucket with a type of wood, I'm going to chuck the blank one just on top. It's just going to float on top of the pellets there. So I know every time I open up the lid, oh yeah, these are apple. Oh yeah, these are hickory. Makes sense. This is my competition blend that I have. Just an easy way to keep track of things because, sometimes you'll lose track. You've got 3 different Lowe's buckets and they all look identical and you don't remember which one. You could write on the lids of your buckets with a Sharpie, but if I fill it with apple today and then tomorrow I'm putting mesquite in it, every time I do that, I'm going to have to cross it off, cross it off, cross it off, and I don't know, that would get confusing. This way, I don't have to mar up my buckets and I should remember what everything is. So there you have it. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure you follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Dave's Ohio Barbecue. Make sure you subscribe, hit the little button down below. Press the bell so that you get notifications. I have a lot of videos coming out really soon. This way you'll get notifications as when I post them. Also, if you have any questions or comments or anything, leave them down below. That's where I get a lot of ideas for my videos. I'd love for you guys to give me an idea and I'll try it out on all my stuff here in the backyard. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.